Hello there, it's Mike with the Fish Tank Barn, and I'd like to welcome you back to another video. Over the past couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about the Two in the Zoo convention in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Today I want to focus on the Livebearer Fish Show and cover that a little bit more in depth. I did have 11 entries in the show and was able to film the majority of the fish that were present. So let's go ahead and jump into the footage. I'll go ahead and talk about some fish that were highlights for me, review some things I've learned, and hopefully you can see some new fish that maybe you haven't seen before. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started with the footage, I do want to talk about the show a little bit. If you've never entered a fish show, each show has different classes depending on the types of fish. I would compare it to something like a dog show, where you have different dogs of the same breed competing with one another. The fish are judged on various characteristics such as size, finnage, behavior, body shape, and other factors. So as we go through the footage, go ahead and let me know in the comments section which fish are your favorites, as well as any interesting new fish that you haven't seen before. The first fish I want to look at is the Berlin black swordtail that I entered into the fish show. This was a fish that I took to the club meeting a couple months ago, and it showed pretty well. I really like this fish and how it behaves, but as we go through the swordtails here, you'll see that there were some really nice fish that it was competing with. I want to stop now and talk about this Nessie sword as well. This is a great looking fish, and one of the handful of fish in the show that I thought really stood out. This fish is a great example of how big and thick some of these species can get. Just look at how big and deep the body is on this fish. It's really quite outstanding. Definitely something we should strive for with all of our wild type swords. This Variatus platy from Rio Coquilco was another fish that I entered, and a species that's one of my favorites. I really enjoy the colorations and markings of this variant, and feel this is one of the best and most underappreciated platy species that we have available in the hobby. This was the only class that I entered 2 fish into, and that was the knife Livebearer you see here, and the Gambusia clarkhubsia that follows it. I really like this other Poecilid class. You can find some interesting and unique species that you may not see very often in the hobby. This female Xenotania resolanae was one of the more eye-opening fish in the fish show. I entered the same fish which you just saw previously, and you can definitely see the size difference. This fish was absolutely massive, and really made me realize how big this fish could get. None of my fish are this size yet, but maybe someday I can have one this big. It's getting an idea of what the optimal fish looks like for the species that you keep. This fish definitely gave me something to shoot for when it comes to size. The family class is another class that I find really unique. I was really impressed with this group of Scyphia multipunctata. Goodeids generally don't produce a ton of fry and have a 60-day gestation period, so I was really impressed that whoever entered this fish was able to get the number of 3-month-old fry required to enter this class. I hope that you enjoyed taking a look at all the fish here in the fish show. I hope that you found a new species that was interesting to you, or maybe learned something new about a fish you already keep. I really find entering these fish shows to be a worthwhile experience, since it allows you to learn about a species that you may not have seen before, as well as learn about the optimal conditions for keeping a fish that you already have. One thing that I do want to mention, that I unfortunately wasn't able to film the guppy or molly classes, as they were already breaking down the show by the time that I was able to get to that part of the table to film. If you have the opportunity, I would highly recommend that you enter a fish show, either at your local club or convention. I really find it to be a worthwhile experience. So with that, stay safe, stay fishy, and I'll catch you on the next video.